See me. Up, you back in?
Discord glitch.
I can hear you now.
I'm just popping. Ah, excellent. We are. Sorry, Discord's being weird for a moment.
No, it's fine. And then,
There we go.
what is your accent? So I hear Commonwealth, but I'm always really shitty
So
with
I'm
Commonwealth
Australian.
accents. Okay, nice.
From yeah,
How do
a
you feel
land
about
down under.
Kiwis?
Love them.
Okay.
No, Kiwis are great people. There's kind of
A fake Kiwi
like a
Australian
sibling
war? It's
rivalry.
not a real thing? Okay, nice.
Yeah, it's a sibling rivalry. Australia's real war is with the emus, you know?
All right, fair. No, and I think that's it is fair. They are like for everybody talking shit. I think it's fair to talk shit to a country that did lose a war against like a bird, but also the birds in Australia are genuinely terrifying. Like it's not even the emus.
We've got sorry, not kiwis. We've got emus. We've got cassowaries. Cassowaries are scary as fuck.
Dude, that's
Dinosaur
what
murder birds.
Dude, that's what everybody was saying is like they're aggressive and they'll attack you and shit, and they're actually like pretty powerful and have like really strong like kicking legs and shit. And
And look, the scariest stuff in Australia is actually some of the smallest stuff. You've got your
the fucking the spiders,
your
and
redback
shit.
spiders, blue-ringed octopus, irukandji jellyfish. There's a plant, the gimpy, which is like
sounds
the
made up.
world's strongest stinging nettle. There are reports of people like using it to wipe themselves after going to the toilet in the bush and then committing suicide. It's that much pain, like weeks of some of the most intense pain you will ever experience.
Nice. So
Australia
you pretty
is
much
basically
live
Codex
in the Warhammer.
Tyranids.
Yeah, I was about to say. So you live in the Warhammer 40k universe.
Yeah, it's a little bit Catachan.
Yeah, a little. Well, and dude, I was gonna say. So I don't know if you've played, Darktide yet. But they have a Catachan
Not yet, no.
or Catakin sword, and it is so good. It is so good for horde clearing, and it's like the perfect machete thing that if you were like I don't know in a jungle surrounded by fucking 30-foot fucking scorpions and shit, it's the exact fucking sword you would want. Ooh, I'm fucked.
Good.
I gotta run. Oh, you just threw up on me. There's
I can see your stream on the other on one of my screens.
It's a beast of Nurgle, so it's a giant fucking slug, and
wonderful.
Somebody just date raped me by hitting me in the back of the head. So anyways, sorry. Yeah. So no.
Speaking of Nurgle, I had a lot of fun doing a Nurgle makeup look for stream a little while ago.
Nice.
It was. So this was for the did fundraising for the Movember Foundation.
Nice.
6 different makeup looks over the course of 24 hours, nominated by donors and voted on by stream. One of them was Nurgle, and yeah, I'm pretty pleased with that. If anyone wants to check it out, scroll through my Twitter, you'll find it.
Base. And that's the other thing that I noticed was regardless of like political affiliation, there's like far left or Warhammer 40k nerds, there's lib left 40k nerds, there's lib right 40k nerds, there's auth right 40k nerds. And I think it's just a big enough of a universe that you can find whatever you want to find, which it's always like a good jumping off point for people who like it.
It is. There's unfortunately, I think some of the far right 40k nerds take the Imperium as being a somewhat inspirational organization,
right?
As opposed to the broad condemnation of authoritarianism and the worst aspects of humanity that it is.
Okay, but this is the thing, okay? Because I'm breaking this down next week. There's a new Hammer and Bolter episode where you're watching this beleaguered imperial working class family that has obviously struggled to survive for all of their lives get their family to a space shuttle port and have to deal with the Imperium being murderous bastards about like basically getting them to where they need to go and blah blah blah. But what ends up happening is the Imperium's paranoia and mistreatment of like average citizens by the end of the episode in a twist ends up being justified. And I'm like, fuck. So like Games Workshop really does want to have it both ways, where they're like,
they do.
The Imperium is bad, but also things are so bad that the Imperium's actually right.
Yeah. Look, this is one of those things with 40k. There's there is the Imperium is bad stuff, but they also want to sell their poster children, the Space Marines. They want to put their kind of best foot forward. This results in like this weird fucking tension.
Messaging. Yeah, conflicted messaging.
Yeah. And like if you look at different 40k factions as being vague allegories for things, or trying to figure out like what if 40k does have satirical elements, what are the satirical elements of 40k? Like, or within those factions, like Gene Stealer cults is basically the
vanguard Marxism,
the fascist obsession with like infiltration from malicious external forces and the turning of society against you, but made into a real threat.
Yeah. Oh, fuck me. I gotta reload. But for me, because I'm a fascist sympathizer by virtue of being like a a Burkean conservative with a lot of liberal principles. Basically for me, the thing about the Gene Stealer cult is, so I see historical analogies everywhere I look. So for me, what is it like? How do I phrase this? Tau are like China now. They're like the CCP, right? Because it's collectivist, it's mildly authoritarian, but as long as you go along to get along, they actually won't fuck with you too much, right? But the second you start talking shit, they're gonna fuck you up, right? So that's kind of.
I've got a note on the Tau in a little bit, but I'm going to let you keep speaking for a while.
Oh, well, I can just leave it with Gene Stealer cults because they're both, from my views, the communist factions. So for my views, the Gene Stealer cults, on the other hand, are fucking like, they're leftist revolutionaries because they think they're doing the right thing, right? They think
You've seen the amazing Stalinist Gene Stealer cult army that someone put together with the Faith in Father stuff. Is a beautiful set of conversions worth hunting down.
Did they use Tyranid rules, but they created it to be a bunch of fucking like robots and mech walkers and shit?
No. This is after Gene Stealer cults were released, and it's a regular Gene Stealer cult army, but they've gone and gotten like little commissariat jackets, and they've made like custom banners with the flags waving, with like the Leninist figure of the patriarch. It's a beautiful army.
I need to get that. That sounds like fucking amazing. Oh my god, I'm getting boo food right now.
I should probably specify my political leanings for your audience. I'm a Broadchurch Lefty. I think as long as people are pushing in the right direction.
Broadchurch, like a church with a broad, what would you call that? Like flock.
Yeah. Like if someone's like a liberal or a centrist with progressive leanings, or an anarchist or a non-shitbag Marxist, they do exist. I've met a couple. Then as long as they're pushing in the right direction, then cool, not a problem. There's a lot of issues with the world, and hypersectarianism isn't going to fix them.
Well, what are you doing on Twitch? Or YouTube? Basically, this place is a fucking nightmare for anybody with like even an iota of fucking pragmatism. And by the way, like that's fun,
Well,
basically.
This is one of the reasons I haven't really gotten into the debate circuit, because I don't just want to have shit down, drag out fights with people over minor stuff. I'd much rather have conversations.
Yeah.
Oh, it absolutely is fun. I watch a lot of debate content.
But oh shit, here we go. But basically you don't want that level of fucking lack of pragmatism to bleed over into your own content, which I think is probably smart.
Yeah.
Ooh, shit.
And look, if opportunities present themselves, I might get involved in some debate stuff. I might do it a little bit more as a character. I don't know. I've got a background in circus performance, cabaret, and burlesque.
Oh wow!
What I did before I came to Twitch.
No, that's amazing. That's actually Oh fuck, I got fucked. No, that's genuinely amazing because you were mentioning the makeup or whatever. I kind of want to find out about it, or not find out about it, but I'll absolutely Google it because if it was good enough to win, and also it was like this hardcore crazy thing or whatever, that sounds pretty fucking sweet. And yeah, and that's where I like to get into this shit as well. Where basically
We've lost you for a moment.
Oh, okay.
Nope, we're back. Australian internet, it does that.
Oh, it's all good. Yeah, so I was just gonna say basically all I was gonna say was, as long as people are kind of like you were saying, you're like a Broadchurch lefty. I feel like I'm a Broadchurch righty. Where if somebody is at least intended, like I was trying to think of like a fundamental axiom or whatever. So the fundamental axiom that I have is you wake up every single day, you realize that the world is flawed, you try to make it a little bit better, and you try not to fuck over other people as much as possible. And that's like we can disagree on everything else, but if you start with that at least as your moral premise, you and I can have a conversation. So
I agree with that as a fundamental set of axioms. Something that I've learned from streaming is that like even a lot of the most hideous and heinous people on the far right are trying to make the world better. They're just trying to make the world better through a framework that I think is extremely fucking dangerous. The example of this is I was covering some Australian neo-Nazis, and these are like outright Sieg Heiling neo-Nazis. I'm not using the term flippantly. Covering some Australian neo-Nazis, and they got into talking about their like why they emotively believe what they believe, and it was about protecting their families. It was about ensuring the best future possible. Now, their best future possible is something that I think is absolutely heinous and will lead to the deaths of many people, but most people are coming from that position of trying to make the world better. It's just their view of what a better world is.
Yeah, and that was something realizing. So I served in the military. I participated in the global war on terror. Realizing that jihadists saw themselves as good guys was like horrifying to me, because I was like, how could suicide bombing or execution or torture of civilians or any of this kind of stuff, how could any of this be justified? But then like through studying their moral system, I was like, okay, like it's still hates you, still wants you to either change or get smoked. But I at least understand why you think you're the good guy. And basically that kind of boils down to like fascists or whatever. Fascists have this idea that, for me, there's like two parts of fascism. There's what's called flexible authoritarianism, which I think is the problem, where basically they'll do whatever they need to do in order to get into power, and they will co-opt any institution insofar as it serves their interest, and they'll also dissolve any institution that doesn't serve their interest, and they have the power to dissolve. So I think that's incredibly evil. And then there's something called political corporatism, where you basically treat the nation state as a political body, but because that gets into the race shit or like homophobia or transphobia or whatever, they and like cultural degeneracy, that's where it does get like really homicidal pretty quick against broad swaths of people, which from like for me, for like a liberal perspective,
fascism seems to be very
really bad.
Yeah, fascism seems to be very mainlining, superpowered, overemphasizing the kind of the in-group, out-group, the us versus them.
Yep.
And fascist regimes seem to function by forever tightening the acceptable category of the in-group and finding more and more enemies within society.
See, I've heard this, and I guess the example would be like Nazi Germany, right? They start with like I don't know, socialist sympathizers, but then that gets down to Jews, and then it gets down to gays, then it gets down to trans people, then it gets down to Roma and gypsies and all that kind of stuff. So I guess that's
also
true. But is there like another example that you have of that? Because I've heard it a whole bunch, but I don't. For historical perspectives, I haven't seen it.
I actually don't. I don't have another example of that, and you've made me realize that that is an area that I need to research more on. If I don't know something, I'm just going to say I don't know something. So
No. That's
I
awesome.
don't like bullshitting people.
No, but what I was gonna say, the reason why I'm even giving like the mildest amount of like questioning to it is I've heard that before, but then I've talked to like basically what I guess amounts to fascist philosophers, like modern fascist philosophers, and they believe more in the political corporatism and flexible authoritarianism, and then they point to Italy as not being like racist in its fascism, because while I'm sure it was still racist in a lot of ways, they had like the incorporation of like Lombards and Romans and like all that kind of stuff, like a bunch of people who legitimately did see themselves as like different people, and so they were able to like marry all these vying political factions into a unity, but it was through the unity of being Italian that they were able to like unify people into like the fascist framework. So that's actually where I think, sorry, real quick, just I think that any lefties who are listening, you need to be careful, especially with Make America Great Again, because I've literally heard Nick Fuentes and who else? Nick Fuentes and a few other Make America Great Again people. I've heard them basically make civic nationalist arguments where they said, we're not going to be able to get rid of the Hispanics. We're not going to be able to get rid of the blacks or anything like that. So as a result, we actually need to make these people proud and happy to be American, but then also still take our side. And so I think that's where if you're like, oh, they're just racist and they want to kill you all, that can get dangerous because you might not be keeping up with rhetoric. Because like I was saying, fascists, they'll destroy a social institution if it's possible, but if it's not possible, then they'll try to co-opt it.
That does make sense. So I think, again, this would be something I would have to look into more with the Italian stuff. It would strike me that what they did there was to construct a category which was a broader Italian that these various groups then fit into and then were unified under fascism.
Right, and I think Americanism, like ultra-nationalist Americanism, absolutely could do the same thing. As a matter of fact, I don't even think it would be a big stretch. I think it would fall into a lot of our lore as a country.
Yeah, and look, there will be a lot of kind of backbone fascists in the movement who do ultimately want an ethno-state, but they will work towards that with things like immigration policies, discriminatory political stuff to disincentivize certain people from moving there, from having as many rights, from being able to have as large families while trying to incentivize as many white people to breed. But that's going to be a core central backbone that exists there within the movement, but they will try and rope as many people in as possible. We can see this with the Proud Boys, for example. The Proud Boys, with they had Enrique Tarrio leading them for a while. There's some non-white Proud Boys here in Australia. They are quite, from what I've seen, a fascistic group, but they're, I guess, Broadchurch fascism.
Well, so my frustration with the Proud Boys, so they talk about being like, what do they talk about? They talk about being like Western chauvinists, so like the Commonwealth or America or whatever, like our constitutionalism, freedom of speech, self-determination, balance of power. These are all the things that they speak about when they're like, this is what makes the West great. So there's not like a huge like ethnic component to it. And I was like, dude, I agree with like 80% of this shit. But then what's bullshit to me about the fucking Proud Boys is basically they're like, oh yeah, and in order to save the Republic, we have to throw our political weight behind Donald Trump. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like Donald Trump,
and you can also
Donald Trump might not even understand fascism, and yet he still seems to like execute it perfectly. Because for those of you who are like, oh, Cotter just has Trump derangement syndrome, what Trump does do is if there's a social institution that he can ignore or get away with pushing the boundaries of, he will do it. He doesn't give a fuck about republicanism. He doesn't give a fuck about democracy. It's just whatever puts him in power to achieve his
own
agenda
power and
is
edification.
all he cares about. That's all he cares about. So,
and you do also have that so what the Proud Boys ended up doing was basically functioning in a way like the Brown Shirts did for the Nazi Party. So providing security, aggravating against various different groups, being on the ground, being willing to be in a fight while not being officially a part of the party's structure, thus creating a level of plausible deniability.
Plausible deniability, yeah. So that's the so my frustration with the narrative, and like by the way, we could absolutely get into like who started it, right? Which like I don't think it really fucking matters who started it. But my thing with the who started it thing is I was in the center right, Jordan Peterson right, in 2014 to 2016, kind of the the glorious anti-SJW days. And the narrative, which I think could have been corroborated.
Oh, I remember them. That was a hellish time to be a lefty online.
Well, what they corroborated, or a story that could be corroborative. I'm not saying it's correct. I'm just saying this was the narrative, and then they were able to provide some level of evidence for it. Was that there were normie Republicans, people who supported Trump, and who wouldn't be fascists or identify as fascists or even be like racist in a lot of ways. But a lot of people basically identified them as fascists, showed up to fucking Trump rallies, and then beat the fuck out of what were basically, in a lot of other people's views, normies. And so that's where the Proud Boys had like a casus belli, like a case for war, where they said, the leftists are, they don't care about political norms. They don't care about political violence. They don't care about any of this kind of shit. And basically, we will, we'll use their own tools against them. We'll just show up to the rallies and fuck them up. And so that's where they had, past tense, had a decent level of support with, I think, normies who were sick of seeing like Black Bloc beat the fuck out of people. But then where they lost
that story, whatever its level of ultimate truth is something that gives them like narrative cover for the actions that they initiated.
Well, but then that's what I was going to say. Where that started to smell like bullshit for me was when they started doing the Patriot Prayer events, where they're like, we're going to go into downtown Portland. We're going to go to like, pride rallies. We're going to go here, 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 and here. And it's obvious that what they're doing at that point, they're not doing defense for normies
agitation
at political rallies. Yeah, they're intentionally going places. Now, there's like a part of like liberal libertarian philosophy where it's like, I should be able to say what I want to say. I should be able to do what I want to do, blah, blah, blah. And I should be able to do it anywhere in America without fucking consequence. I get that shit. But for me, after seeing them do it a whole bunch of times, I was like, that's cover. It's just cover. Like I'm sure there's people who genuinely believe it and, whatever. But I think, like you said, there's a deeper core of people who don't give a fuck about any of the principles. They just want to go fuck up leftists, basically.
I'm going to steer things back over towards 40k for a minute, because I've got just a thought rattling around my brain. You brought up the Tau before as a socialist faction, or kind of socialist-esque.
You could say they're state capitalists. They never made it to socialism, bro.
Yeah.
They never decommodified they never decommodified the means of production. They never what was the other
We don't
thing?
actually know anything about the economic system of the Tau Empire, and I would love to see some like novels and short stories like fleshing out like day-to-day life
like
of
Indian
people
caste
living
system,
under that regime.
It
is an
very
Indian caste system. Well, it's Confucian.
Yeah.
I see it as kind of Confucianism. They're kind of a bit of a fusion of kind of French and Japanese imperialism. I think the main kind of, if we're looking at 40k factions as having some sort of satirical element, I think that the main satire of the Tau is the lies that we tell to justify imperialism. It is the myth of the beneficial imperialist empire.
Oh, but see, that's the thing is like not as a Tau apologist, right? Like, cause fuck the Tau. But there's actually like a good chunk of things that you could
cards
point
on the ground.
to.
I am a Tau player and fuck the Tau.
Well, but the thing about it is, I think you as a Tau, whatever, like I get what you're saying, where it's cope, right? It's cope to justify their own imperialism. But I think that not if you were an imperial, but if you were like Aguela, right? and you lived in the
Yep.
Tao society, and you actually got to live a full life. I don't even know. There's like some implications that they like they don't euthanize, but they what's the one where you just don't let people have kids?
The
Eugenics.
sterilization.
Yeah, so
yeah.
they sterilize
so-
and do eugenics for Guela. That was in like the Dawn of War
Yeah.
series.
I was about to say that's Dawn of War, which isn't quite canon, but some things in Dawn of War have kind of crossed over a bit into canon, like some stuff with the blood ravens.
Right.
It's generally considered that a Guela, so for those who aren't 40k nerds here, a human living under the Tau Empire, that a Guela will have like a better quality of life than
In the Tau Empire.
most people living in the Imperium. The Tau Empire still does genocides, but they do genocides because they've convinced themselves it's the right thing.
Dude, I got a fucking
become
meme for you. I don't want to lose it.
Go for it.
So I think this would be horrifying to like a good chunk of people, but to me it was actually pretty fucking funny. So there's like a Guela, and they show him like being taken in by the Tau Empire or whatever, and like he's like in Imperial like Cadian flak armor, and then but then like there's like a Tau foot soldier who offers a hand, and he joins the Guela, and then there's like the same Tau like super sad later on, and he's looking at a battlefield. And it's a bunch of fucking Guela, like all like decapitated and like put on pikes and shit. And like they took like some like human hands and they chopped them off and turned them into middle fingers and like arrayed them randomly throughout the battlefield. And I was like, oh my god,
oh god,
like the middle fingers like had me laughing super fucking hard. But actually, I was imagining the heartbreak of the Tau who had taken this Guelo almost like a pet, like you would like save it from its degenerate lifestyle where it's like hurting itself, and then to realize the horror where you basically put it into the position where it was slaughtered by its own people. Like that was kind of like a wild but kind of funny meme.
Yeah. One of the things with the Tau that kind of plays into that, the adopting the Guela and then sacrificing them into war, everything is justifiable for the greater good. This is it also plays into part of their imperialism.
Did you watch the the Tau series, the Exodite?
I only saw the first episode. I think there's two more that I need to watch on that.
They got into it really good. Like really good.
Awesome. I'm glad to hear that.
The Tau, they don't really do too much like moral fighting or whatever, but they present the Tau as like consistently losing their warriors and like these sacrificial aims that are for the greater good. And then I was thinking like, oh, wouldn't it be interesting if basically they had a little bit of infighting amongst the Tau for basically for like, is this really worth the greater good? But what ended up happening was they just unquestioningly threw themselves into the fucking fire over and over and over again, and they lost dudes, and you could tell like some of them were like
one of the inhuman
depressed.
things about the Tau is that it's the slavish dedication to the ideal of the greater good. And there's ongoing discussions about what power the ethereals actually have
in the far side enclaves,
whether it's cultural, whether there's something genetic.
Or like a mild version of like warp power or telekinesis where they can control everybody.
And we just don't know. They seem to have, we know that they've got some like overarching command ability that makes the Tau fall in line when there's an ethereal present, but we do not know its nature. It could even just be culturally ingrained. We don't know. Gonna jump text a little bit.
Go ahead. But the one thing that I was gonna think was hilarious was the Tau basically like they warp jumped without a Geller field, and the Guela.
The slipstream stuff.
Yeah, like so I don't have
they summoned up a deity of the greater good. And the Tau that were
and they got like pissed because
it's
like from Guela worship or something.
Yeah, because the Tau don't worship the greater good. It's just something they internalize. But humans have this drive to worship. So they have created some sort of warp entity of the greater good, which has horrified the Tau that are aware of it to the level where the Tau of the fourth, no, it was the fourth sphere expansion fleet, genocided all of the non-Tau that were there, and came out the other side like super fucking xenophobic, and have been taken to re-education camps by the Ethereals.
Dude, like that's the kind of shit. That's the grim dark that I fucking live for, bro. I fucking live for that shit. Because I think it's just it's so funny to take all of the good intentions of like what you would view as very human, right? Like human impulses to try to make the world a better place, and just flip them on their head and kind of ask, like, you know, what happens when all of your intentions are fucking wrong, when they go sideways, when you're totally fucked. And that's what I love about it, because I feel like it kind of the world asks that of us, basically, where like you look at history, it's so obvious that there's so many people who are incredibly well intended, but then all of their dreams and desires are flipped on their head and ultimately turn to shit. And so that's actually one of the main things I love about the 40k universe.
Yeah, it's the darkness of it is just, the grimdark is something that I've been in love with since I was a teenager. I stopped collecting 40k kind of in my late teens to mid 20s for financial reasons. Got back into it.
Oh, dude,
in
it's
my
so
late
expensive.
20s. Great tip. I'm actually making a huge Lovecraft-themed Chaos Demons army, mostly using miniatures from Kickstarted board games. If you can find like an alternative source of cheap miniatures, it can really make it easier to get into wargaming.
Yeah, and that's there's like 3D printing and shit now. There's all sorts of shit that can make it an enjoyable hobby. But then you have to kind of find like casual people to play with, because they got all fucking, you know, the Games Workshop tournaments get all fucking sensitive and all that shit. So it's a tough hobby, but honestly, I think if you get into it, it's glorious. Like I can't think of another game or universe that does as good of a job, basically, of like incorporating worlds that you think shouldn't be incorporated together. They do a great job of like Judge Dredd, like literally the Arbitus or fucking Judge Dredd. You know, there's so many cool things about it that shouldn't work and do.
Space, everything in Warhammer is drawn from a bunch of other places. It's, you know, it was their 40k was their fantasy setting transplanted into space and made darker and worse. I mean, worse in a good way.
Yeah.
It's interesting going from like the old first edition Rogue Trader stuff and seeing where, you know, a lot of the darkness of the Imperium and the satirical nature was like much more upfront. And it's become a lot more heroic. You know, you've got the tableaus of the mighty space marines.
Dude, I think the satire, you can only have a satire for so long and be like cruel to the subjects of your satire for so long before people get bored.
Yeah.
And so I think that's what happened, where they're like, okay, we're going to keep the xenophobia, we're going to keep the, you know, the racism, we're going to keep like all of these grimdark parts of the environment, but what we'll do is we'll demonstrate the good and the bad side by side. And actually, I really love that shit, because there's like the book series like Gaunt's Ghosts, where the individual characters are in every fucking sense that you would want a human being to be a powerful and fucking upstanding human being.
Which I've not read Gaunt's Ghosts yet, but I don't know if my camera's working on your stream yet. A friend has just lent me volumes 1 and 2 of the Omnibus, so I've got it sitting here for me to read.
Dude, it is so solid. I love it as a Dan Abnett is such a fucking talent and he was my first George R. R. Martin, where you just create characters that you absolutely give a fuck about. You care about their stories, you care about their relationships, you care about their intrigues, you care about their drama. But then he kills them in ways that simultaneously make sense, but are not necessarily expected. And then it says something about the character, or it says something about the universe. There's very few deaths that are just like wasted, where it's just like, oh yeah, a bunch of dudes smash into each other, and this guy, and this guy die, but then this guy, and this guy live. Like, it very rarely is something stupid.
I gotta say, I quite enjoyed the Eisenhorn novels.
It's the same author. Same author.
And cool. And I really, really love the Caiaphas Cain series.
Yep.
It's just the right amount of levity with, oh God, everything's fucked, I'm going to die, I'm going to run away from the thing that's going to kill me, and I'm in something worse.
Dude,
it's a perfect comedy of errors.
Yeah, so for the people who don't know the premise behind Caiaphas Cain. So Caiaphas Cain, as far as I can tell, he's like
I've got a little one-line thing.
Uh-huh.
Caiaphas Cain was first explained to me as Courage the Cowardly Commissar.
Yes. So basically he's like an incredibly self-interested, self-serving dude who's just trying to survive. But because he's just trying to survive, he's actually pretty fucking smart. And as a result of being smart, he ends up oh fuck me, I'm about to lose the goddamn game. So as a result, he ends up...
You can do it. I believe in you.
Thank you. He keeps on surviving over and over again, but because he keeps surviving all these scenarios, he ends up like becoming a hero of the Imperium. So all he wants to do is find like the most chill spot to like wait out the war and kind of like survive and have his own like life. And he just can't do it because he keeps winning by accident. It's so good.
They're fantastic stories, and they also do a good job of introducing like different parts of the setting.
Yeah. Actually,
speaking of introductory stories, something that was a bit controversial when it came out, but I've listened to a couple of the audiobooks, the Warhammer Kids line. So, you know, I first got into Warhammer when I was like 12. There are kids who get into this stuff. But the Warhammer Kids stuff, the 40k books are actually narrated by David Tennant, and he does an amazing job at all of the different characters.
So hold on. I'm saying yes in a creepy way, and I want to explain why. So the reason why I'm saying yes is because everybody was so worried. They were so worried that what was going to happen was that they were going to
you were going to get a Disneyfication, basically.
Yeah, where like nobody dies and everybody lives and like all that kind of shit. And what happened was the opposite. Like basically, I'm pretty sure what happened was they introduced all the kid characters. I think one of them dies. The Necrons genocide the entire fucking planet, and the one space marine they meet who like saves them also dies. It's like
they did a good job of maintaining like a kid's adventure narrative while still having appropriate elements of the grimdark in there.
Right. And that's, I think that's all you could ask for. And I think that's the frustration with I think there's a penchant, like a desire for people who don't like Games Workshop, don't like their intellectual property practices, don't like all this other shit. There's a penchant for them to assume that everything they do is garbage, but that's not how it works with GW at all. It's like, this is trash, this is trash, this is trash. This is the coolest thing I've ever seen. This is trash. This is amazing. This is trash. This is amazing. And like I would say their win to loss ratio.
There are some real stinkers in the Horus Heresy.
There are, but I also want to say that their like win-loss ratio.
There's great books in there too.
It's still like 70-30. It's still 80-20. It's a respectable amount.
Look, they pump out like 10-ish new novels a year, and that's just in 40k. You're gonna have some stinkers in there, but they've got a really good like roster of staff writers that they use.
Yeah. Oh, dude. Anything by Dan Abnett is amazing for me. I'll read anything that man writes until he goes senile. And then I'm trying to think of what else. But basically, like, there's just, for me so far, there hasn't been the Princess Leia like fucking Mary Poppins moment where she just like force bubbles herself in outer space in order to survive like a grievous wound that makes it like really stupid to deal with. There just hasn't been that like world shattering break in narrative that just destroys my perspective and makes me not want to like read or watch it. It just hasn't happened.
Matt Ward's 5th edition Space Marines Codex.
Yes. Oh, bro, that's actually pretty funny. Because I heard that a lot of people felt that way because it was like the Ultramarines are the best Marines, and everybody else is
the best Marines ever. They can do no wrong.
Right.
The Codex Astartes is the greatest innovation.
But that's like so dumb though, because yeah, you're right. I'm so happy I wasn't around for that, because that would be world shattering, because the whole point of like the Space Marines is that they're all like a flavorful mix of competence and flaws that complement each other.
Yeah.
You know? So to just say like, oh yeah, these dudes are awesome, everybody else sucks. It's like, that's lame. That's so lame. And that is world breaking.
Gonna bring up a controversial 40k topic here. Female Space Marines. Where do you sit on it?
Okay, no. But I am perfectly okay if they say that like Sisters of Battle or Sisters of Silence get some kind of like gene seed and become basically female Astartes. I don't give a fuck about like the concept of gene seed. I don't give a fuck about any of that kind of shit. But I just feel like, for instance, like one of the lores or one of the funny lore things that I liked is that gene seed is so powerful in rewriting genetic code that basically any female that was given gene seed would just be a trans man. Like I think that's
well, I think that female derived Astartes would end up looking very similar to male derived Astartes.
Right. Yeah. Although if you show me some Amazon Astartes females, like my answer gets like a little bit weaker. It's just because of human weakness.
Yeah.
Just, like it's not because of like lore. It's because like maybe 8-foot tall Amazon women aren't so bad. Maybe I could get down with this. But I think the other problem with that though is then it becomes procreation, because like then why wouldn't humanity just genetically engineer and vat born, you know, into Astartes? Like what's the point of humans except for like scale? I guess scale would be the only problem. Is it would be difficult.
Yeah.
Difficult to get that many people all Astartes-fied.
Yeah. Well, also Astartes are tools. Like in many ways, they are no longer human. Look, I'm going to get super lefty here for a moment.
No,
from a gender theory perspective,
I love that there's so many different kinds of transhumanism in 40k. I love that.
Yeah. From a gender theory perspective, if you look at genders as kind of being a broad social role kind of thing, you can look at Astartes as almost being a gender. So they're no longer men. They no longer do the things that human men do. They are their own thing. They are an Astartes. They are, you know, to borrow some stuff from you know, how some non-binary people express their gender. They are the shield of humanity. They are the Emperor's avenging sword. I think that is psychologically more important to an Astartes than being a man.
Or asexual. Which, like, I know...
Well,
so
agender, but yeah.
Well, no, I'm saying asexual. Because as far as I know...
Astartes are asexual.
Yeah, as far as I know, loyalist Astartes don't have any kind of lustful impulse, as far as I can tell.
The only Astartes that breaks that trend seems to be Lucas the Trickster. Lucas the Trickster has a family. He's a space wolf, yeah.
But didn't he do that?
He has a family. We don't know if he had that. We don't know.
Okay.
Also, it's Lucas the Trickster, so we don't know if that's just lies.
Oh, yeah, that's pretty funny. Well, and I also know there's so for like the salamanders or whatever, they have that lore where like they continue to see their human families basically. So are you shitting me? Fucking pick them up. Sorry, my fucking. I'm not saying my teammates are garbage. Like we're making our way through the objectives or whatever, but they seem to Like I've had 4 rounds of ammo for like the past minute, and I know one of these cocksuckers has a fucking he has an ammo crate. He's just holding on to it, being a dick. So, anyways, so the no yeah, and then but then like that's where it gets like a little bit edgy with Slanesh too, where they're like these guys are rapists. Yep. It's like ooh like. That sounds.
Slanesh and Dark Elder are both really hard to sanitize.
Yeah, which I'm very thankful for that. It's like impossible to sanitize the Dark Elder because that makes it feel like we're just never gonna get that Disney-fication of the fucking of the universe, because you can't have like space rapists.
Yeah, I would actually kind of love a grimdark Disney-style 40k musical.
Yeah.
With like Yvraine and Saint Celestine having a combat duet.
Yes. Okay, so all right, I know people are probably fucking reeling in chat if there's any fucking 40k people, but the one thing that I think Star Wars is actually like what would be open for Star Wars to do is not to. Oh, I'm the one with the ammo crate. I hate myself.
Amazing.
I hate myself so much. There were so many people I could have been burning alive. Chat, I hope chat's laughing at me. I hope they hate me, actually. As a matter of fact, I'm quitting streaming. This is this is fucking terrible. I was like, these assholes, I know they got ammo, and they're just fucking and I'm the asshole with the ammo. God damn it. All right, I'll at least make sure my friends can fall back. I'll be the last man out. How about that? Oh, jeez. All right, anyway, sorry. So yeah, so okay, so Star Wars. So I'm super happy that or what I think Star Wars can do is instead of trying to recreate Star Wars, basically tell stories in the Star Wars universe. And I think that's how you can like revive a franchise that might otherwise seem dead, is to tell new stories.
Taika Waititi has been contracted to direct a Star Wars movie, and he seems to be doing that. It's going to be set somewhere away from the stuff we know, with characters we're not familiar with. I think Star Wars is at its weakest when it just keeps pulling everything back to the fucking Skywalker family.
Indeed. And I'm actually super fucking pumped. I know like Mandalorian can be weak at times. I know Book of Boba Fett can be weak at times. But like Andor or whatever, I'm happy that
Andor was solid.
Dude, so I'm happy that Mandalorian broke it where you can create a Western in Star Wars. And honestly, you could do that like infinitely, because it's a place with bounty hunters and warriors and hard scrap people and like all that kind of shit. So you can do Westerns all day. And then Andor was like a war movie. Rogue One was a war movie that happened to be in the Star Wars universe. And then I think Andor, people kind of described it as like a heist spy thriller, kind of thing. So you can tell new stories in this universe. You just have to use the backdrop. And then that opens up the universe narratively to do whatever the fuck you want. And I love that.
Yeah. I want to see them using it more as a sandbox than just telling the same fucking story over and over again.
And you can still have awesome shit. You can have like, schlocky kid shit. And you can also have like hardcore tactical war stuff, and you can have fantasy schlock. So
yeah. Moving things back to 40k for a moment. What are your thoughts on the Leagues of Votan, the new squats?
Very happy. So I probably won't pick up an armor.
Same.
or like an army, but I'm very happy that they kind of expanded it or whatever. And I love that manlets, they get a faction.
Yeah, look, I'm a short guy with a beard. I spiritually associate with dwarves.
Dude, you should dwarf max. Fucking braid your beard, dye it red, start wearing armor places. carry hammers.
My beard comes out very curly. It doesn't braid very well. I tried it when I had a longer beard, and I just ended up with like little face pubes sticking out everywhere. Um, Years ago, there was a burlesque routine that I kept meaning to do but never got around to making, which would have been a dwarf burlesque routine, staff spinning but with pickaxes.
Yes!
And doing it to Diggy Diggy Hole.
You can. I believe in you. I believe in you. Anybody can do it. You can.
One
do
day,
it.
It's still on the to-do list.
Oh man.
So
that is.
There's a few things that I quite like about what they've done with Votann, kind of lore-wise, and how they fit into 40k in general. I picked up the Votann starter box. I'm doing them because I'm a lefty. I'm doing anarcho-syndicalist themed Leagues of Votann.
Oh, there's so much room. There's so much room in the lore. Dude,
there really is.
Yeah, sorry for cutting off, but dude, like what was I thinking? The basically like what they did with the Votann, which I love, which I just wish everybody would do, is they make it so you have like a bunch of prime factions with super fleshed out lore, and then they also make it so you can create your own custom thing, and that would like Space Marines, Imperial Guard, Eldari to a certain.
And Games Workshop's been doing that from the beginning with like the Lost Primarchs are an example, and Games Workshop has stated that they will never detail who the Lost Primarchs were or what their deal was, and that's so that people can use them to create their own very unique Space Marine chapters.
Yeah, and I also like another thing that they said that kind of opened it up for loyalists, and also opens it up for renegades. Like anybody can go renegade at any time. Like there's successor chapters that turn traitor all the time. And then for the loyalists, what I liked is them saying that whoever the fucking who's the Belisarius call, he like is rumored to have created chimeric stuff.
Primaris chapters based on the chimeric stuff. I forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah. So he made loyalist and fucking loyalist and heretic Astartes like gene mixed, and then he also what was the other thing?
The Sons of the Phoenix is one of those chapters.
Yes! Dude, how can you call a chapter the Sons of the Phoenix and not assume it's at least partially Emperor's Children, man?
And they've given them the purple and gold look.
Right, yeah, like it's white armor with one arm purple and gold. I'm looking at you, Sons of the Phoenix. You know, pretty sure you got some Emperor's Children gene seed in there. Oh, and then also they're really stout and super devout and super disciplined, which like you that sounds like word bearers, right? But then you would think if you were gonna make a new Emperor's Children legion or chapter, you would basically keep them super religious so they don't fall, right? So and keep like a really close eye on them, and so that. I don't know. I love that shit. I love when they mix it up with flavor because it's just the universe is so big. Yeah. Fuck.
I've been on a few like social media groups with people posting their Leagues of Votann stuff, and there's people who've done kind of Warhammer Fantasy Chaos Dwarf inspired Leagues of Votann. You've got people doing like pseudo undead squats who've been like ravaged by some kind of disease, but their suits are still keeping them alive. You've got people who are blending them with Skaven. Nice. Which is just a wonderful aesthetic.
Yeah, they would have a rule set to lend themselves to that, so that makes a shitload of sense. And that's what I love too. Sorry, go ahead.
The things that I really like that they've done with Leagues of Votann, now we have in the 40k lore kind of effectively a grimdarking of capitalism. because they've taken
Yes!
the greed in the
Yes!
industry of the dwarves, turned it up to 22 on the 10-point scale, and now they just rock up with like planetary disassemblers to get the resources on that world. And they're like, okay, people on the planet, we're giving you 2 weeks to leave. We can provide you with contracts if you would like to go. Otherwise, we're just going to harvest your resources along with the rest of the world.
And wait, so are they allegedly doing that to Imperial planets? Because I haven't read all the lore yet. Or human planets.
They're doing that to human planets and
but maybe
planets
not
with various Xenos on them as well.
Okay.
Now they've just been, they were in the galactic core, but the Great Rift, the giant warp storm that's now bisecting the galaxy, has kind of driven them out, and they're coming in contact with the Imperium more, which is the reason that they weren't on the tabletop for a while and are now back.
Well, hold up. So, did you say the galactic core? What? So they were close to the rift when it opened up?
Yes.
So they were so annihilated by that event that basically they were a minor faction.
Now
until
the galactic core isn't just the very center, but it's getting in towards the center. The reason the Imperium didn't have much of a presence there is because it's full of like stellar nurseries, all sorts of like really intense energies and stuff, and the Votan were designed, engineered for that kind of environment, so they can survive there a lot better.
They have their grav suits and they have all that. Yeah, absolutely. No, that makes sense, dude. No, that's sick. And I think that I actually like kind of repeating, old lore, because, for instance, what the old lore was, as far as I could tell, is they were like, oh, squats exist. They just all got eaten by Tyranids. And that was probably just some random, GW lore master who was sick of like hearing about the squats. So he just like, he has this like throwaway line, but it's canon.
They're fucking gone now.
Yeah, it's like canon for like decades. So basically like everybody's like, oh no, the squats are gone. They're not coming back. And then that April's Fool thing with like the tease, and then them
with the sisters reveal and the clock that broke, and they had the squat clock up there as well.
I don't know about that one, but on April Fools of last year,
yes, no, with the video reveal, yeah.
And then they were like, "Psych, April's Fools," and like everybody was like, "Ah, GW, you cunts." And then, but then what ended up happening was they were like, "Psych, they're real." I was like, "Oh, like nice." So, like, I know, like, a lot of people are more, like, negative about the games that, like, GW plays, but I think there's, like, genuinely, like, fun and earnest people there. And, like, I have,
They've become a lot better as a company since they changed CEOs. I think Roundtree is the current CEO, and he was... has been working within the company for a long time. The prior CEO had this very, we're not a rules company, we're a models company, and like was engaging in a lot of really, really anti-consumer behavior. And new GW, they've started picking up some of the faults of old GW, but they're a lot better than they used to be.
Well, let me ask you this question. How recently did that change occur? Because basically, as far as I can tell, Warhammer Plus...
Around 2017, I think.
Okay, well, maybe it just takes time to right a ship. But one of the frustrations for, I think, a lot of people in the community, even in the community that I run in, 95% of my fucking channel views are like Warhammer episode reviews. So fucking Trapper, you bitch. So basically, they had like a lot of like anti-competitive practices when it came to Warhammer TV. They like blocked all the community animations, all that kind of stuff. But
they changed their terms of service to disallow disallow community projects that were based around animation.
Well, and then the most recent update, they were like, okay, you can do it, but you can't profit off of it or whatever. Like, you can't monetize it. And then that, of course, that disincentivizes people, because then they're like, why would I spend weeks of my life?
I can't even run a Patreon page to recoup the costs of doing this.
Right. And so they're doing
funnily enough,
but the new Hammer and Bolter, I just want to show you real quick. The new Hammer and Bolter in the second to last Hammer and Bolter, fucking solid, dude. They put their whole fucking foot in it. It is amazing. Animation quality, story,
I'm gonna have to check that out,
dude. It is good. It is good. Good story, good plot, good acting, good narrative, good writing, good animation, good action, good everything. It's fucking solid.
Amazing. There are large companies that have not made the same mistake that Games Workshop did regarding the fan animations and
Uh-huh.
fan works in general. Funnily enough, Wizards of the Coast, which is, not a small company, owned by fucking Hasbro, which is an even bigger company. Their terms of service for that kind of stuff not only allows fan animations, but allows fans to make money from fan works.
Yeah. Well,
It,
okay.
it,
So,
it, it just permits it. And if like a
mhm.
company as fucking
Large and
like
professional as
overbearing and
Hasbro.
litigious and huge,
Yeah.
yeah, can see the benefit in because things like if the Emperor had a text-to-speech device, the
Dude, it
Astartes
brought in
animation.
so many
Um,
people. But dude,
yeah,
okay,
absolutely.
but that was so here's my thing. I think other people do not have America's fair use because basically America's fair use is if it's satire or parody, that's almost instantly covered by fair use. Almost instantly. So
We've got the same here in Australia. It exists the same in the UK as well. Now, I do think that TTS Alpha Booster's works would have been covered under satire
all
and parody,
day.
but he didn't want to have to deal with the potential of coming up against Games Workshop's lawyers,
Well, dude, but
so
here's
he
here's the thing.
pulled the
So like
plug.
I've talked to Games Workshop's lawyers and community stuff because they were like, "Hey, your stuff like isn't reactive enough. It doesn't modify our content enough. People can see the whole thing. We want you to modify." And so I was like, "Okay, well, literally half the runtime is me commenting, so I think this is fair use. So for now, buzz off." And they actually they accepted that for a good chunk. And then they copyright struck one of my Angels of Death episodes, and I was like, all right, this isn't that reactive. Like I didn't do enough transformative stuff, so I'm gonna take the series down and redo it. But I'm telling you, they're
Yeah,
not completely unreasonable people. But I think that a lot of people hear the word lawyer and litigation, and they just like freak out, and they're like, I don't even want to fuck with it. Like that's
yeah.
literally their reaction to that. Which I think
I
is a
don't think you're
shame
wrong
because
there.
there's a lot of really good art that could have been made if people were just a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong with any of that. There was one more thing I wanted to say on Leagues of Votan, and this kind
Mhm.
of ties back into something we were discussing before, with the idea that the Imperium is justified in what it does because the universe is so fucking horrible.
Dude, you
And what?
have to watch the new one because you're gonna know exactly what I'm talking about. But
Yeah,
I'll shut the fuck up so you can finish your idea. Sorry.
I'm looking
I was
forward
just
to
like
checking it out.
I was just like
Um,
it's gonna make you think that it's you're gonna be like, oh, this is evil, this is horrible, I hate the Imperium, and then at the end you're gonna be like, all right, I get it. You're like,
yeah.
so classic.
The but yeah, there was a lack of other human factions
Hmm.
that presented alternative ways for humanity to be, exist, and survive in this universe.
Right.
And the Votan are that. Now, they're modified humans, yes, but they come from human gene stock. They were created by humanity. They view themselves as being distinct from humanity, but they're an alternative path that humans can take and still survive in this horrible fucking setting. There's another
Right.
example of that that's never been on the tabletop. Was the Interrex. They were
Yeah.
another human civilization that Horus encountered during the Great Crusade. And when he got the order to eliminate them, he lamented this and thought that their way of being and
Horrible.
the with their finding ways to get along with Xenos, finding an alternative path for humanity was superior to the Emperor's vision.
Yeah,
And this was
and
well before Horus turned traitor.
dude, yeah, I love that kind of shit because it poses all these moral questions. Like, actually, so one of the things that really jacked me up about the Horus Heresy, especially the first three books or whatever, was the what was it? It was the Oretian technocracy, where I think this was
Yeah.
after Horus had turned, but they had like basically Astartes armor. Their dudes just weren't bioengineered, and so they actually put up like a hell of a fight where they had bolters and, you know, all this crap that actually gave the Space Marines a run for their money. And so basically my, not frustration, but I think it poses like a moral problem where you're like, when you're being ordered to genocide a people that you could make peace with, but you're under this like super strict hierarchical organization. You've been trained since your, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, your induction into the Space Marines, that you can't question these people. These people are gods. And on top of that, they prove that they're gods. Like a good chunk of the time, they're actually like amazing living beings. And then to be forced to go against your own morality and still like swallow that bitter pill, it was amazing. It was just amazing to experience.
There's some well-written stuff in there.
Yeah. And by the way, I still think that's Dan Abnett. Like, I think all the good shit is Dan Abnett.
Dembski Bowden has some good stuff. His earlier works didn't grab me as much, but some of our, I think I've listened to some of Aaron Dembski Bowden's later books. I can't remember what they were, but I do remember enjoying them.
Well, so this was after Horus was turned, and they're actually having like a peaceable meeting. And after they have the peaceable meeting, like Horus, just for like a random like reason, he's just like, oh, he's got a weapon, and then he fucking like executes the missionary, or not the missionary, the envoy of the Orician technocracy, which sets off the war. And basically like they talk about how like there was 10 different times to stop the war where they could have, you know, basically it wasn't that the Orician technocracy was going to surrender. It was just that they could have reached out and it probably would have brokered a peace, and Horus just never did. And so they just like continued this like brutal slaughter, losing Space Marines, losing their brothers in arms for a war that didn't make sense to bring to heal a civilization that wasn't even consorting with Xenos.
You've even got in the first book where it starts, I was there the day the Emperor died.
Yeah, dude, I thought that was so cringe the first time I read it, and after like 2 chapters, I was like, this is amazing.
It's another smaller human empire that's refusing to bend the knee to Big E, the Emperor's will. And they claim and believe that their homeworld is Terra, the birthplace of humanity. And it's never proven that it's not, and we never distinctly know that Terra in 40k is our Terra. It's just assumed to be, because so much knowledge has been lost. It was these were, you know, decent people. They just didn't want to be subjugated, and for that they had to be purged.
Well, and what I loved about that shit was basically like, what if we're not Terra? You know what I'm saying? Like that was like the question, like what if we're not the place that we think we are? What if we're not the
cradle of humanity?
Yeah, the cradle of human civilization. What if there is a different cradle of human civilization that's actually the birthplace of our species, and due to some like, you know, space travel, you know, mishap, we are now you know, stuck in this thing, and one day we will be confronted by a different branch of humanity that will ask us to bend the knee. And so I just thought that was like an amazing thing to think about, because like our self-importance as a planet is so self-evident in our culture. That I think we would, like, if we thought we had a technological ability to resist, I think we would resist. Like I think we would on some level. We wouldn't just bend the knee and do whatever they wanted us to do.
Yeah. And look, an invasion from aliens, other humans, anything like that, I think would be one of the few things that could at least temporarily bring most of humanity together, because it's opposition theory of social cohesion. We suddenly have an overwhelming external force that is the them, and we will see then the us as everyone fighting against that force.
Well, and so that this is, I kind of joke about this, but like I want political corporatism and communitarianism. Like, oh, hold on. My brother's here. God damn it. Hold on 1 second. And I'm getting in my boxers. Sorry, chat. I'll be right back.
I'm just gonna yammer and entertain folks. I think you can't see me yet, Connor's chat. Yeah, no, for some reason my video just isn't showing up. It is displaying on Discord, but just yeah, I'm just gonna talk for a moment. Oh, he's coming back. You're saved. My lefty propaganda didn't have time to set in.
Oh.
Welcome back.
Well, I still remembered my my propaganda. So, so what I was saying, like, I think that America could be unified, and that like that could be a part of what gets us together. And by America, I mean like the northern and southern Americas. We could come together and make the entire continent better, and I think that would actually be a lot better long term if we basically focused on our own backyard instead of like all these intrigues in different countries, right? So one, I kind of want that, but then also I kind of joke about like, you know, aliens uniting us, but I think that's, if there were aliens, we actually would come together as a species. And like racism, it would be like race realism. Who gives a fuck about race realism? I don't care if like, you know, somebody can run faster than me, or if I have like, you know, a 5-point higher IQ. I don't give a shit about that. Like, you know, we got aliens to face. And so
now, if we did have an alien invasion, there would be one political faction we'd have to watch out for: the Posadists.
Posadists, explain that to me.
It is a weird offshoot of communism that came about, I think, in the 1960s from someone called Posad, funnily enough. But he was very big on, like, UFOs are real. He reasoned somehow that the only way that interstellar travel, interstellar civilization could ever be a thing is if a species had already become communist. So his plan was to try and unite with the aliens. Posad was also
against
an
humanity.
advocate for the Posad was also an advocate for the personal ownership of nuclear weapons, and thought that without aliens, communism on Earth would best be brought about after a nuclear apocalypse. He was a fucking weirdo. He gets memed on a lot in lefty circles.
That's actually borderline amazing. I will absolutely be looking out for fucking Posadas, because there's some space trader pieces of shit. That's fucking hilarious. Like I think on some level that's almost logical that there would be like 0.5% or like 1% of the population that would. So I would understand if there was like an alliance of convenience, or an alliance of like they're like, we're gonna lose anyways, so we're just gonna ally with the aliens or whatever. Like, I understand that completely, but I didn't think that there would be some people who would think that the alien invasion would be good. They're like, this is awesome, this is great, let's get conquered. Fuck.
Because, you know, if they're aliens, they must be communists. How the fuck does that logic even track?
Listen, I'm on Twitch politics, okay? I do not expect logic to necessarily follow, and I'm very serious. Like, people, I gotta say, like, my most frustrating conversations are probably with libertarians, and I have like libertarian friends, and there was even the guy before you was a libertarian, and I liked him a lot. But my frustration is that, like, I don't think they take into account political power at all. Like they just don't conceive that power abhors a vacuum. And since it abhors a vacuum, there must be some level of governance that like tries to elbow out nefarious actors. And maybe in the future, like, there will be like some fundamental fucking shift of consciousness where every human being is a libertarian, and then we can translate into a like a libertarian society. But I just don't see it. I just don't see it at all.
Yeah, it would require an almost religious internalization of the NAP, the non-aggression principle.
Right. Yeah, and it would have to be a universal religion.
People are too opportunistic to do that, I think.
It would have to be like a universal religion where we're just like, hey, turns out the libertarians were right the whole time. Everybody has to worship libertarianism. And if you don't worship libertarianism, we're going to force you to. Yes.
Just drape all the churches in the Gadsden flag.
Yes. Oh, man, this is actually great. Oh, man. All right, so I'm going to play one more round. So that'll probably give us like another 10 minutes, 15
Cool.
minutes to talk. And then I'm probably going to
Sweet
give
as.
chat, a chance to just answer questions or talk to them for a minute because they've been patient hanging out with me while I've been slaughtering heretics and talking to folks. So beautiful. Beautiful people, the 35 people hanging out in chat.
As we've only got a little bit of time, there's a thought I wanted to finish from before. So female space marines. There's I'm getting my brain in order. Yeah. So like I would like to see them in the setting, or at least female-derived Astartes. Just from a narrative perspective, I don't think like the models really need to change. Maybe you release a bunch of new heads, whatever. From a meta perspective, Astartes of one flavor or another make up a bit over a third of the armies in the game. So just kind of making female-derived Astartes a thing would do a lot to just address the gender balance in the models on the tabletop. That's like nothing to do with the setting. That's just me as a lefty. That's something I'd like to see. However, I have come across one good lefty argument against female space marines, and that is allegorically space marines. They're an expression of the horrors that fascism pushes onto boys and young men. The space marine indoctrination process, kind of stripping away their humanity, turning them into a violent, slavish tool of the state.
They have two emotions, anger and numbness, like, and on occasionally sadness, which then turns into anger. Yeah, they're not the most emotionally developed living creatures.
Yeah, because like no version of fascism that we've encountered so far does that same thing to women. So removing
but authoritarian leftist regimes do. I was just thinking about like female Khmer warriors and fucking female Viet Minh and Viet Cong.
Yep, no, that's fair. That's something I need to look more into. And look, I do think that the Imperium isn't just a like parodic, overblown version of fascism. It works in authoritarianism in general, and also theocracy. Like some of the worst aspects of human civilization are all present in the Imperium.
Well, yeah, and that's one of the things is basically fucking sniper. What the fuck was I thinking? The Imperium actually incorporates a fuckload of other systems into their system. So
yeah.
They're,
as long as you have a planetary governor that can pay the tithes, they can run their planet however they want.
Oh, you can be a monarchy, you can be a republic. There's probably not very much democracy, but you would. There's probably going to be some level of oligarchy, oligopoly, and not meritocracy, but whatever you would call like a ruling of the elite, but not necessarily rawly through nobility. So
yeah, well, that's going to happen when you appoint a planetary governor.
Right. Yeah, and everybody's going to have to bend the knee to that governor, so there's going to be some level. Yeah, exactly. Perfect. Yeah. So but I do think that there's flexibility in there, but I think it's at its best, kind of like you said, where it's showing the worst aspects of it. I think that's like, and the only times that you should really have it redeemed is you should have it redeemed when it's basically like Rome, and that's it. And you could still have like all of the horrors of Rome, like the Colosseum, slavery. I'm trying to think of what else, but basically with Gilliman returning to the setting to kind of like redeem the Imperium, he sees how far the Imperium has fallen from the original vision. Yeah, and he's sad.
Look, I would
and he's
argue that the
angry about it.
Emperor's original vision in many ways was also really fucking horrible. I mean, we've already talked about, the extermination of anyone that doesn't fit within his blinkered vision.
Yeah. Yeah, it's only justified. The only way you can justify it is as an the opposition to chaos. That's the only way you can really justify his original vision.
And yet, humanity, because they are so prolific and somewhat psychically sensitive and live in such awful conditions, their suffering is the main driving engine that's fueling chaos in the warp at the moment.
Well, and what I love about what do I love? So what I love about the Horus Heresy in particular is the visions of these like men. Like these are supposed to be like secular men, right? They're not supposed to believe in gods or demons or anything like that. And yet,
and the Emperor keeps presenting himself as a god and insisting that he's not.
Right, yeah. It's like, I'm not a god, guys, but he's like wearing gold armor and he's got like churches and basilicas and shit.
12 feet fucking tall, issuing commandments that must be followed.
He can make you bend down to the ground like through sheer psychic will. Like, yeah. I'm not a god though, guys. Don't worry about it.
Totally not a god, guys.
Definitely not a god. Well, and that's another interesting thing too, is the definition of God. So for instance, like one of the most interesting things about Jordan Peterson, even if you think he's cringe, is he made me understand what is it like where you have multiple gods? Pantheism? No, not pantheism. Polytheism. Polytheism.
Polytheism, yeah.
So the reason why because the way that I was introduced to polytheism is like it's dumb. Like the Greeks and the Egyptians, they're just dumb. They just came up with dumb stories about how the universe worked, and they're fucking dumb, and you shouldn't believe this shit because it's all dumb. That was basically like
I was brought up as an agnostic, so I kind of learned that about all religions.
Well, but here's the thing. It's not dumb. It's actually kind of creative and interesting. So polytheism basically the reason why the gods are gods is because they're eternal forces. Mortal creatures like you, me, dogs, cats, all that kind of stuff, we live and we die, whereas things like war, love, lust, these forces, they live as long as there's living creatures. And I don't think they necessarily knew that like the planet was going to die, when they were like, Greek polytheists. So realizing that the emperor in a classic Greek sense of being a pseudo-eternal force that can represent like a virtue and perpetuate and wield power, in a lot of ways, he is a god. And he just wanted to eliminate that because he was trying to kind of eliminate the archetype of like a omnipotent creator god. I think that's what he was trying to get rid of.
Yeah. Well, he was also trying to, part of the purpose of the imperial truth, which was the emperor's secular philosophy, was try to move people away from worship in an attempt to starve out the chaos gods.
Right. Which I think is beautiful. And the visions.
The thing is, he was a bit wrong there, because the chaos drop gods aren't really driven by worship. They're negative emotional experience. Mm-hmm. And that's something that the emperor definitely propagated in his forging of the empire, or the Imperium.
But I think you can really not argue it both ways. But I think that like he wanted to return them to an elemental state where they weren't so powerful that they were personified. Because if I understand correctly, the gods are like Nurgle, Slanesh, and all that kind of stuff. There's a billion forces in the universe, but not all of them manifest themselves as like nefarious gods. So what actually
there's other warp entities, some malicious, most malignant these days, but some not.
Right. And so the fuel of these things is these virtues. As a matter of fact, fucking what is it? Major Kill or whatever, he has a theory that I really like where
I can't stand Major Kill's delivery. I try and watch a Major Kill video every now and then I'm just like, nah.
Everybody hates
it's like
that
running sandpaper over my ears.
everybody hates that he's like a fucking like Aussie bro, you know, who like shit posts, and like I fucking love it. I don't know, maybe I'm just
it's a
cringe,
temporal
I don't
quality
know.
thing for me. It's the sound of his voice just pisses me off.
Okay.
He's like, I feel like he puts too much Aussie. Too much overemphasis in. I'm a bit more bogan here, mate, but he's got too much overemphasis to try and sound gravelly. And I'm just like, oh god, no, man, just speak.
Maybe. I don't know. Maybe I'm an asshole. Maybe that's why I like it. Ooh, shit. I was running around with a flamer thinking I was the only cool guy in town, and the bad guys have a flamer too. So, all right. But one of his theories that I like, you can hate his delivery, but one of his theories was that like the emperor infused like part of himself in each one of the Primarchs, and they're all supposed to be representative of virtues. But also, what was or supposedly happened, or what he believes happened, is that they were he stole like gods from the warp. So actually, like Sanguinius is like partially like a warp god of nobility. And what is it like?
It's an interesting theory.
Yeah, and so the stand behind his theory, I'll be really brief. He just said that like Fulgrim has been brought back, or like Horus was brought back without his soul, and because he didn't have his soul, because the Emperor like annihilated it with his fucking sword or some shit. Because he didn't have his soul, he was actually like, despite being physically powerful, he was actually kind of like a weak creature. And so it's kind of required that you have like the infusion of like a warp deity to make, a Primarch, basically.
The theory kind of similar to that I've seen that I like the most is that in creating the Primarchs, the Emperor removed aspects of himself and sealed them into each of the Primarchs.
Which is why he's so autistic.
Yeah, it's like the Emperor basically lobotomized his soul in order to create these beings.
Which I'm just going to go with that just because that dude is hella autistic. And if, like, he wouldn't be the demigod of humanity if, he was just like that in the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I love it.
Everything could have been avoided just if Big E was a good dad.
Yep. But then that's where it kind of comes down to, a lot of people hate the Marvel Cinematic Universe or whatever. But for me, it's not about like realism, right? And it sometimes it is about the story, and it is about special effects, and it is about this, and it is about that. But what it's really about is telling a story about like principles and emotion, and that's the reality of the story.
On that note, I think that these days we use Super's stories in a similar way to how we used to use the myths and legends of polytheistic mythology.
Yep.
It's personal and moral conundrums retold in a safe, larger-than-life setting. And I actually think that's a very important societal function.
Mm-hmm. Oh, 100%. And that's actually, I don't like the poo-pooing over, like Marvel and shit. Like, you can say it's dog shit, you can say it's trash, you can say it's for kids, you can say whatever the fuck you want.
There's good films in there, there's bad films in there. Same goes for the series that they've done.
Yeah, and so, but basically what you just hit on is where I think the real value is, where basically it's retelling moral stories, largely for teenagers and kids, to basically create like a moral foundation for people to understand the world in complex scenarios and blah, blah, blah. And so not only am I on board with that, I think it's good and like necessary.
Yeah, same. Like, for example, the amount of, high school kids throughout the decades who would have been helped along by seeing Peter Parker going through the same kind of struggles as them, also dealing with supervillains and stuff on the side, but going through the same kinds of struggles as them and being able to go, well, look, if he can do it, if I can see that in these stories, I can get through this too.
Yeah. And it's like, it's, you know, it's the emotional reality that's more important than a fucking dude getting bit by a spider and being able to fucking climb buildings and shit. And actually, one of the funniest fucking things about, come on, bro, let's go. One of the funniest fucking things about Spider-Man recently was that somebody like changed the Spider-Man video game to first person, and a lot of people were like, I don't want to be Spider-Man anymore.
Yeah. Oh god, the motion sickness,
dude. It was so motion sick. Oh, I'm gonna get domed, aren't I? Ooh, I'm reviving everybody. Yes.
Good job.
Thanks. I revived 3 people. Now I'm setting everybody on fire. Yeah. So basically, like, that was the, you know, the thing where it's like, you're right. It's supposed to be a fantasy, right? It's a fantasy.
Yeah. But it's a fantasy that can help us to better understand and examine the reality in which we live. And
right.
We're storytelling apes. Storytelling is one of our biggest, like, evolutionary benefits. It allows us to pass knowledge from person to person and generation to generation.
Well, in that, dude, that's why I get so fucking pissy. I get like really fucking mad with people who don't like history or stories, or they fucking shit talk all that stuff all the time. It's really infuriating to me because I'm like, you don't even understand like a good chunk of what it is to be human and why it's important. I'm so frustrated with people like that, and people who don't they're like, oh, I don't care about history. I only care about people who are living today. I'm like, you're a fucking idiot. Because a lot of the
I don't think I've ever come across someone like that, or at least not someone who's openly admitted to it.
the reason why I'm doing like eyebrows at the camera or whatever is because I'm pretty sure Destiny. Fuck me. Destiny is openly like that. He's like, oh, I don't give a fuck about history.
Really?
You're dead. Yeah. Which I think is funny. But fuck me. I'm getting butt fucked.
Like, history's important. It doesn't repeat, but it certainly fucking rhymes.
Yeah.
Deadski?
And I just fell to my death, and my teammate died.
No.
And I don't know if my team is competent enough to fucking save both of us. Fuck. Anyways, but but that's incredibly annoying to me. And dude, Vosh is this way too. He's like, oh, I don't know much history.
Is he?
But I'm gonna. Well, he's not aggressively anti-history. But he's like, oh, I don't know that much about history. And I'm like, well, bro, then you probably shouldn't fucking be talking about like political systems, because like the whole point.
He has been making an effort to learn more recently, I think.
Good.
From what I've seen, he's been doing more and more research streams where he'll like dive into the history of Cambodia and yada yada.
Okay, so I fell a little bit out of orbit, mostly because of rhetorical flourishes on his part, and then also like our politics just aren't aligned. So like while I still think he's like a really cool dude or whatever, like I'm just not as orbiting as I was. So I just think that I hope that he researches, refines his skills, figures out a bunch of history shit, and then sees patterns that fucking modify his worldview. Because that's all I want. I want people to be curious, and I want them to challenge themselves. And like figuring out like a hard set ideology that you're gonna stick with when you're fucking 22, and it's your job to stick with it for money is so toxic. That unbelievably toxic.
I'm in my mid-30s. I don't have a named ideology that I ascribe to. Like there's, elements of anarchism, socialism, communism that I think are good. There's also things that people have done in those areas that I think are really fucking stupid and counterproductive. This is one of the reasons I describe myself as a Broadchurch lefty. Beyond anything else, I'm a progressive. I want to see the world get better. I've heard
in like 2 years, by the way, like straight up, like that's the most. Like I don't think I've heard anybody be like, oh yeah, like if we have because by the way, sorry for tangenting so hard, but I've thought about this so much. Is like lefties, like one of my biggest frustrations is the gatekeeping, because in the moral purity testing. Because basically it's like, dude, there's like policy that conservatives, if you weren't vilifying them as like fucking, like everybody right of fucking AOC is a fucking neo-Nazi, if you actually pitched it the right way, you could get conservative consensus for policy. but you're so
Yeah.
busy demonizing these people, they will never vote for you. They will never help you. Like they would like half of right wing politics is straight up like, let's trigger the libs, let's trigger the progressives. That's what it is. So basically, like,
Which is a sad state of affairs, but it is what it is.
I honestly feel like the Republicans or whatever, they've capitalized on that. But basically, it's a lefty, liberal, or progressive game to lose, because you could get your shit together and you could, rhetorically reach out to people who are different than you in order to build consensus, in order to go after policy through democracy,
I think that, especially in his 2016 run, Bernie Sanders did that really well.
Yeah. No, hey, dude, do you know how many conservatives have said, like, if I wasn't voting for Trump, I would be voting for Bernie? Like shitloads. Because he was addressing, like, economic anxiety and immigration and, perceived unfairness within the game of America, the death of the American
Have
dream.
you seen that Fox News hosted town hall that he did in
and everybody's like, this is awesome.
Conservative area? Yeah, and he just knew how to express these ideas without alienating the people who needed to hear them.
Yeah. I'm about to get fucked. Oh, I am fucked. Holy shit, that's a lot of bad guys.
An example of, like, good policies can come from anywhere. Fucking, for a while, Richard Nixon was a proponent of a form of universal basic income, but he called it a negative income tax.
Mm-hmm. Well, and bro, like that's like the thing is, like, some of the shit, and like Nixon fucking created the APA, and Teddy Roosevelt, I don't know if I mentioned this, but Teddy Roosevelt fucking, what did he do? He fucking did the National Park Service and all sorts of shit. And trust busting, not because he was like, I want to, fuck me. Sorry, I'm trying to light a giant slug demon on fire. Die, you bitch.
Burn it.
I did.
So I'm guessing Nurgle foes?
Yeah, so dude, and they're so disgusting. They're so disgusting. It's
Perfect.
So good. You want to murder them. You want to murder them because they're covered in boils and pus and maggots, and when you like hit them with a sword, they like explode. They're disgusting. And then like there's a few like different demons that you can face, and one of them is like a giant demon slug monster that like literally vomits shit onto you. And then if you don't kill it quickly enough and it gets within range, it'll literally just swallow you, carry you around, doing like acid damage to you, and then it'll what the fuck? And then it'll throw you back out like after a while. But it does like a shit ton of damage. It's scary. Dude, they did beautiful work.
Amazing.
It's
just on the note of Nurgle, I've popped a link in your chat, which is to the Nurgle look that I did on stream. So that was for the Movember fundraising stream. We raised $740 for the Movember Foundation, which does men's mental health work. And I did that entire look on stream in the space of about 4 hours. So if anyone in your chat wants to take a look at that, there's some Nurgly fun.
Well, I didn't ask as like I like just talking to people as people, but do you have like a non-binary gender identity, or do you have a like what's your
I don't have pronouns. I use the amateur nouns my parents gave me when I was born.
Oh.
So just a he him.
Weak leftist.
My partner's an NB, but
no, I'm fucking around. No, and so I kind of make this joke on like the NB shit. It's like, listen, if you're gonna use like out there pronouns or whatever, that's cool. But you better have something else to bring to the table. You know what I'm saying? Like you better be interesting or into 40k or astronomy or something. Like you better have something else to offer the world besides your pronouns, or else you're not gonna get along.
I think that can be said for anyone. Like if there's some dudes and girls out there that are just you bring nothing to the table but your like the tropes associated with your gender.
Right. It's infuriating, and it shouldn't be your personality, like your entire personality.
It's an aspect of who someone is. This means that I'm going to add a corollary to that. I do think You see this especially in younger people when they've just figured out kind of their gender and what it means to them. They'll dive into it a lot.
Mhm.
And you see this like with cis people, trans people, and non-binary people all alike.
As you're
You know,
trying to
so here in
figure out
Australia, you
how
get
you fit in your fucking self. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, here in Australia, you get like the young yobbos who are just constantly out trying to pick up, going out for drinks with the boys, trying to get in fights because that's what manly men do, right?
Right.
Um, and then most people mellow out as they become more comfortable with who they are.
Yeah, and that's I think there's a certain thing to be said for like some of this is just growth, you know, some of this is just becoming an adult and figuring out who you are and all that kind of shit. Like a good chunk of it is actually, I'm sure that. But that's where I think it's just fuck. I just wish people could be you don't have to like align with somebody 100%, and that's why I like the Broadchurch leftist shit, or like you saying that is you don't have to 100% align with somebody in order to get something done, right? And so that's my frustration is like, you know, I think Great American Guy, I think he's more left than I am. I kind of forget, but basically like
Not come across him.
Yeah, but this guy, he literally just we cut up trees for you know like a week, you know, after the hurricane because we wanted to do some like mutual aid in the community, and like we don't see eye to eye.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so
No, fuck no.
yeah, so
Like you just need to decide that either, you know, something is in the right direction, you're all going to push that way, like in a political sense, or that something needs to be done to help the people around you, and you pitch in.
mm-hmm. And sometimes it's legitimately just that simple, and I think that's what's frustrating to me about the people who oftentimes like have all these like moral things about, you know, oh, like I'm more moral than you because I have a different perspective or whatever. It's like, okay, but what do you do? You know, like do you spend 8 hours a day fucking shit posting on Twitter? Because if you spend 8 hours a day fucking shit posting on Twitter, you're not doing that much, man. Like you need to, your actions need to meet somewhere.
I do think that some perspectives make you inherently less moral, but that's kind of as an outcropping of the perspective.
Mm-hmm. Oh, sure. Well, so for instance, like, if
neo-Nazis, case in point.
Yeah, of course. But, and, you know, like, I'm not going to be like, oh, no, like a Nazi who does nothing is the moral equivalent of like a Jainist or a pacifist or a Buddhist who does nothing, obviously. But I'm just saying, like, my frustration is the constant obsession with like perspective rather than action. And so, and like, the action doesn't have to be large. It can be incredibly small. Oh no, I think we lost.
And people's perspective is something that changes over time with positive exposure. So by getting out there and like working with people who you might not agree with on everything, they get like you become a human face that they will associate with the ideas that you have and the things that you espouse. I think this is something that exists on both the left and the right. We see parodies of each other, like what's the phrase?
But you know what the problem is?
Essentialism.
The parodies exist. Like,
yeah, they do.
That's the main problem.
Essentialism is the death of empathy.
Yeah. Well, I am dead now. And this was
this has been a real fun chat. Thank you.
Lovely conversation. It was super fun. And actually, what I would say is, we always do like positive community things. So, for instance, we did like a fundraiser for a dude who's having heart surgery. We did a fundraiser for Ukraine. We did a fundraiser for the shit that we did local, where we did like the hurricane relief. So what I would say is, if you're trying to do the Broadchurch Lefty, and if you're involved in the Twitch and YouTube political debate space, but you also want to transform it a little bit, where you're like, it doesn't always have to be blood and guts debates. And we can do positive community shit too. If that's your vibe, then 100% like down for collaboration, either like coming to hang out for a charity stream or asking you to come hang out for a charity stream. Down for that.
I would love that.
Like you said, Broadchurch We just need to make the world better than when we found it.
100%.
So,
But yeah, no, thank you for having me on. This has been a real nice chat. I'd love to have some more conversations with you in the future. I know from watching you in some debates that you're pretty big on systems and utilizing systems for change. I've got a few thoughts and ideas around that I'd like to springboard with you in the future.
down, and let's do it. I'm gonna go talk to chat and go to bed. But it was lovely speaking with you. Looking forward to the next one.
Do you want to spooky stuff before we finish up?
Do I want spooky stuff?
To spruik your stuff. I do spooky stuff. I do spooky streams sometimes.
Wait. What is spruik? Oh, shout out my stuff?
Yes.
Okay, I just didn't know what spruik was. Yeah, my name is Connor. I run a YouTube channel named Counterpoints. I do debates under like my main channel is where I stream, but then I post them to what's called the Counterpoints Coliseum. So just type in Counterpoints Coliseum if you want to check the live stream VODs and all that kind of stuff. If you're into Warhammer 40k, which I'm assuming there's some crossover there, basically my most popular content is breaking down Warhammer media with lore. And then also, like, if I have a few lore videos that have done well, not all of them, but a few. And that's like my main content now, just because that was the most popular stuff. So main channel's 40K.
It gets the views. It gets the views.
Yeah, whatever. Whatever gets that revenue. Who cares? So, but main channel is 40K, but I live stream here. Second channel is debates. And then third channel, I'm doing political essays, but it's just getting off the ground. So basically, yeah. Type in Counterpoints into YouTube and subscribe to all of the channels that pop up that have blue and gold logos. And then if you would love to shout yourself out as well, please do so.
Absolutely. I'm Radhom. I'm a lefty Australian political streamer and complete and utter nerd. I spend most of my time on Twitch painting miniatures while covering politics. I've also got a background in circus, so I do a little bit of circus performance mixed in there. It's okay to show up here, hang out in chat under Real Radhom if you are not a lefty. Just, follow the rules and don't be a dick. I do have a YouTube, but I need to get way better at editing and uploading stuff to it. You can find it by searching Radhom. You'll see an image of, I think it's me with some crystal balls in purple and blue lighting.
Based.
My main circus thing is rolling crystal balls around my body.
Well, if you dwarf Max, please send me the pictures. So.
Oh, I shall.
Awesome. All right. Catch you, buddy. You have a beautiful day / night.
You too. Catch you around.
Catch ya. So that was lovely. That was a lovely series of conversations. I'm a huge fan. Not everything has to be contentious. Not everything has to be blood and guts. But I do want to shout out to the blood and guts people. So we have like 36 people in chat or whatever. But guess what? There's like 50 to 70 people who show up, and sometimes even 100 to 150 people when we're yelling at people. So the one-on-ones are not going to die. Like, I'll still do that in the background and all that kind of shit. But chances are what's happening is Taze is working on the graphics and all that kind of shit. I have a guy who's building a platform right now specifically designed for panel debate shows, and we're going to launch the spiritual successor to the Hippy Dippy next year. So basically, be comfortable, enjoy the conversations, et cetera, but we're probably going to get back into the blood and guts soon. So if you're kind of like, hey, Connor, I loved you from your blood and guts days. I just got to put up with you now to be background noise. And sometimes you have interesting conversations. If that's your vibe, that's totally fine. But we'll get back into the blood and guts. So, because blood and guts is fun too. So I'm going to scroll to the top. I'm going to scroll to the bottom. Sorry for not blocking the porn bots. My bad. And basically, I'm going to answer all the questions or comments that even remotely seem interesting to me. And then we're going to get the fudge out of here. And we'll probably raid some people if we can. Bud123 says, cholesterol is regulated by the body. If you eat more foods with cholesterol, your body makes less. If you eat less food with cholesterol, your body makes more. True, but you can have like metabolic breakdown where if you give your body too much of something, it no longer produces, or if you give it too little, it no longer produces, or it produces too much. So you can obviously have like endocrinological, hormonal, blood imbalances or whatever that are natural or just naturally occurring. But I think that people mistook, like red meat correlates with heart disease, and I'm sure it still does, but also, I'm sure a good, I'm pretty sure like a worse balance is probably correlated between like fats, shitloads of fats. The one above all says Connor is still a baby. That genuinely makes me feel good because I'm starting to feel old as fuck. Breast is too dry. Interesting. How can I get 100% permaculture as a millennial who's a gardener landscaper? Well, you need 1 pig, 1 cow, 1 chicken, and 1 duck. And then you just need to rotate them through the field. And what I mean by that is DM me. Let me share my Discord link. I think the Discord's public at this point. It's in the description. So I think if you just go to like discord.com/counterpoints, you'll get into the Discord. But I'll post a link in chat anyways. But basically, if you want to talk to that guy, I mean, I got him on Twitter. I think I got him on Discord, so I can reach out to him. I'm gonna buy a cabin in Montana. Indeed. We should probably, if the weather starts to destroy my house, we should probably pick a Midwestern state that doesn't have terrible weather and has beautiful views, and all get out of here. Bro, for real. Indeed. You can do something, chat, but don't believe that you're responsible for changing things. There's a lot bigger players that need to change. Sure, Seth, but, basically focus on yourself and you'll probably be less miserable of a cunt. I live near Montana already. I ain't no Californian. Based. He said, hippy dippy, Connor's going to get nostalgic. Indeed, I did. I do miss debates. Connor's skin head treatment is getting tired. I'm not getting the vibe that he lubes like black people. What? What, Christian players? What is his views on Vegemite? Oh God, were we talking about the Australian already? Jesus. Is a made-up continent. Okay, all right. I guess we're in the shit. Haitasugu says, nice haircut. Does he mean big tent? Yeah, probably. That's what he means. Let me specify my position. Proceeds to use a term no one has heard about. Yeah, but, if he said, large tent, big tent leftism, I think it's fine. Oh shit, you're the mustache guy? Yes, indeed he was. And I do love dwarf maxes. I hope he gets a Votan army. You have lurked since day one here, and I gotta say, fuck yeah, let's go base synthesis centrism. Indeed. Can't see the screen real well. Is he playing Necromunda? No, I was playing Darktide tonight. So basically, just released, I bought it, and what was I thinking? It's really good. I'm going to be really sad if I lose my progression on my character. That flamethrower was doing work, bro. Doing work. Oh, really? We lost like 5 people on YouTube? You don't want to listen to me talk to people about their questions and comments? Wow. Thanks to you, rude 5 people. Was that a Civ 5 reference, Connor? Not intentionally. At Counterpoints, if I recall, aren't the Ethereals basically mind controlling everybody? Isn't that Farsight's whole thing? Got far enough away from them to realize they were being mind zapped? Indeed. Yes. That is the lore, but I still thought like there was enough circumstances where they were getting depressed about losing their dudes on the mission that I thought that there would be like some question, and of course they would be like, well, we're still going to do the, the greater good. But I was anthropomorphizing Tau. Turns out that they're just, who was it? I debated Fabian Liberty and Econoboy on whether or not animals were like biological robots. They basically assume that they're biological robots. So it turns out Tau are biological robots, and we can genocide them without feeling bad. So good. I wish that was longer. Interesting. Looks like Chaos is having a barbecue. Are you telling me that the Inquisition Obi-Wan... Are you telling me that Inquisitor Obi-Wan Sherlock Cousteau isn't a completely original character, Jade? Connor, I took a massive L the other day. Send prayers. Indeed. Let's pray for Astronaut Farmer. I'm sorry that you had an L. I hope your life gets better. Indeed. God Emperor, please add AdMech to Darktide. We might. I don't know if it's a real time though. I only really fuck with real time games. God, I miss Star Wars so much. I was such a big fan. Well, there's some new good stuff. Who is it? Andor and Mandalorian are solid. I'm not saying they're great. I'm just saying they're solid. Submissive 40k races when? Yeah, there's not very many of them. So, bring back the squats? They did. They're called Votan now. Rockin' Stone. Yes, I did see it, and it was a highly rated game. Other humans may bring about a religious schism where some humanity turns traitor. Ark versus Eden. Yeah, that's kind of the scary thing, right? Hey, who is the commie guy again? So the commie guy again is Radhom, R-A-D-H-O-M. If he's listening right now, he should link himself. Also, feel free to DM me in Discord or YouTube if you want to follow up with him. Please no anal. Also, bro, at Counterpoints, bro, of course, there were anti-Valerian shit. Not sure about that one. Fuck, I was wrong in the chat. Fuck YouTube chat. I need to sub. This has just been amazing content. Oh, thanks, buddy. Appreciate it. This has been unannoying lefty I've heard in a while. Great. Great. I'm happy to bring the good faith content. At Counterpoints, GW used to sell female Space Marines, but they never sold well, so they stopped. Indeed. Yes. So female Space Marines could have been a thing in the 80s and 90s, but people stopped watching, so. Azariah, you're the same person from Twitter? Yeah. Sweet. All right. I'm also in a server. Yeah, so I think I linked Discord after that. Is the Discord good? It's okay. I mean, we have a lot of pretty smart folks, I think. Polytheism is based. It can be. There's the Discord. I'm going to try to be here. I need more positivity and action from the people I listen to while doing shit. Based. King Lombardo. I'm happy. We do things to try to get people to be better. But yeah. So does Counterpoint have his own DGG or CGG? Yes, we do. So it's very small because we kept it private for a super long time, but now we're opening it up. And we do have a GG website that we're building in the background. So yeah. Counter stories in history is so important? Yes. Yeah, the CGG is to be reckoned with, although there is a lot of Oshites that like counterpoints. Yeah, I'm like the only good faith centrist, right of center person. Asking Destiny to do research on anything historical is like asking a toddler to pay attention to anything more than an iPad for more than 5 minutes. So impossible. That is brutal, like a brutal assessment. But I do think that he has like a very solid autism focus on what he's interested in. And if he's not interested in it, he doesn't give a fuck. So yeah. Tay says, but they are rhinos. Indeed. I was thinking about co-opting the rhinoceros as a political party thing that I want to do. FatCat87 says, lol, Ukraine, how much money is Zelensky going to get before he lets the people in the Donetsk region vote for themselves into Russia and not join NATO? FatCat87, so we donated, I think, roughly $1,500 directly to the Ukrainian army for like body armor and all that kind of shit through Come Back Alive, that charity. And then the remaining money actually went to a local and some local humanitarian stuff that actually we know 100% that it went to people in there that helped. So you can hate us for saving up money and sending it to the Ukrainian army or whatever and think that it just got lost. But a healthy chunk of it didn't. So yeah. Rolling crystal balls across his body like Kyle Kalinske does. What? At Counterpoints, when are we going to do Halo Infinite customs? I mean, we can. Yeah, absolutely. I'm sorry that we didn't do it tonight. I had shenanigans to do last night, so I moved everything to Saturday, and then since I moved everything from Saturday, I couldn't game tonight. So sorry about that. Are we still going to call it Hippy Dippy 2.0 or Clout Bouts? I'm preferable to the second one. I'm good with Clout Bouts, but to be honest, I started Heated Hippie. Started some artwork for Heated Hippie, because I don't want to just straight up rip off Hippy Dippy, but I also want to have some name recognition, and I want to follow Dylan's model because I think it's a solid model. I think his moderation style and his rule set were really good, and it's part of what made the show good in the first place. How embarrassing! Counter reading my boomer posts. Hey, listen, I'm a boomer too, so your boomer posts are most welcome, friend. Oh, yes. Is there a good starting point for someone who's a bit uneducated in politics and history? Yes, indeed there is. So number one, actually, this is the only place that I would go. YouTube, literally just watching like random YouTube like lore videos, because history is just lore of the real world, basically. I know Hardcore History with Dan Carlin is supposed to be really good. And then on audible.com, really we should get a audible.com sponsorship eventually. But audible.com has a series called the Great Courses series, and it's like Ivy League level professors who are entertaining, funny, fun, weird. Like they're the most talented professors in the United States and I think across the world, and they teach you a college level class in any subject without any homework. They literally just give you the information. So if you're good at listening to podcasts or whatever, basically just pick up every Great Courses history book that touches your fancy. And as a result of that, you would have a blast. No, we must be the Bull Moose. I'm okay with Bull Moose. Let's just go back to Bull Moose. You know, there's a reason why the oldies are the besties. Also, just let me know if I should save money for your website before I start donating subs and shit. No, King Lombardo, please donate away. The stuff gets, how do I phrase this? we're doing a rev share between me and Taze. I'm behind on paying Taze because I have to pay my own bills. But everything, pretty much everything, like either goes into bills or goes into the channel. Like that's literally it. I paint Warhammer, I YouTube and live stream, and I try to grow the channel, and I live with my family and pay my bills. That's pretty much, you're looking at 40% of my free time is here because I enjoy it and I like it and I do it and it's fun and I want it to grow. So our money went to McDonald's Big Macs for the Ukrainians in the front lines. Hey, listen, that's based. Good on you for that. I miss the hippie dippy. Based. Heated hippie. Lol, is that when a cop hits up a hippie full auto stout? True. Indeed. We're going to make that visual. IRL lore is so good. I don't read a lot of fiction because IRL is insane. Indeed. There are many things that happened in history that are based. History hit TV is also pretty good, Alfario says. Great. The name is Bombeardo. Indeed. Okay, King Bombeardo. Based. I love it. Humanitarian aid is Big Macs. Fuck, if it was delicious and it gave them calories that they're now burning off, it's aid to me. It's also a play on the first boss in Mario, the King Bombo. Interesting. All right, King Bombeardo. I'll remember that. And if I don't remember that, just remind me. It is a nice beard. Indeed. The only problem with IRL lore is you can't escape a lot of spoilers. True, King, true. So let's go ahead and raid some folks. If you have additional questions or concerns, I'll check the chat one last time before we get the fuck out of here. But it was a fun stream, you know? Chilling out, maxing, relaxing, all cool, hanging out with the fools. It was great. So let's go raid somebody we love. And we'll take it from there. People like DM me on Twitch. I don't look at Twitch, bro. Like DM me on Twitter or Discord, like a normie. So got it. And thank you for the sub, King Bombeardo. I do see it. Thank you kindly. Lots of follows, but we'll see how to grow Twitch. All right, so we'll raid Mr. John Zerka because he's at least a decent shit poster, and y'all can shit post or call it a night. Twitch is out of here. After the Green Day strike? Yeah, so on YouTube I can't raid, but I can check. What's today? Today's Saturday? I don't think anybody I know on YouTube is live anyways. Let's check YouTube real quick. Twitch is rated out. Yeah, I don't even see anybody I know are like live right now. The only person, to be honest, the only people that I know that like stream on YouTube 100% is like Sitch and Adam and Destiny. So it is what it is. Counterpoints, we need to get back into some Deathwing. Indeed, but I uninstalled because I'm playing Darktide. So if there's a way for your computer or Xbox or whatever to run Darktide, I think we're just going to buy you Darktide so we can do it because it's so fucking good. Dude, the Flamer, all of the weapons sound amazing. Everything's punchy, disgusting, fun. All of that stuff. It's such a great game. I love it. All of the things that you wish were happening in Deathwing are happening on Darktide. So, yeah. Assuming Twitter stays up long enough, it's going to. It's fine. It's fine. Don't be doomer. That's something that you should have learned tonight. Don't be doomer. But anyways, love you guys parasocially.